Hello, and welcome back to yet another college football video. Today, man, we got the week three rod poll. Week two was absolute pandemonium. It was cinema. I have no complaints for week two. A couple of the teams that I was rooting for lost. A couple massive upsets, some great games, some blowouts. Let's get into it, man. College football's back. Oh, it's like crack to me, man. Straight like heroin right in my fucking veins. All right. Thank you for watching. Let's get right into it. So, when it comes to these teams that I think everybody knows how good they are and they still have not played anybody yet, well, Georgia has played somebody. But when it comes to teams like Georgia, Ohio State, Ole Miss beating up on nobodies, I'm just going to keep it short and simple. Georgia they look better than they did last week offensively. They did not get off to a slow start. Carson Beck, 5 touchdowns. They ran it incredibly well. Defense came to play, held Tennessee Tech to 3 points. Have they given up a touchdown yet? Did Clemson score a touchdown? I don't know if they did. Even if they did, it probably was in garbage time. So have not given up a touchdown yet, as far as I'm concerned. Ohio State as well. They also came out to that slow start against Akron. Did not this week. Jeremiah Smith being wide receiver one as a true freshman is very, very scary. They have two NFL running backs, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. They both look good. I mean, Ohio State's Ohio State. Let's wait till they play somebody. Ole Miss 3-0. Little typo there. Um, sorry, 2-0. They're number three. Middle Tennessee State. So what are they now? What's the combined score for Ole Miss? Is it like 128 to 3 so far? Listen, they've looked amazing, but let's wait till they play somebody. Henry Parrish, transfer running back, 4 touchdowns. Defense, I mean, came out to play. Defense looked great so far, but again, cannot judge it too much so far. Jackson Dart has been pretty much flawless. I think he started this game out 24 for 24. So yeah, Jackson Dart. I don't know why nobody's talking about this guy as an NFL prospect with his dual threat possibilities and his arm. I listen, man. I can't wait to see Jackson Dart against some of these top tier competition. But yeah, Ole Miss is still at number three for me. Texas, it was weird because at first I'm like, man, Texas with one of the biggest wins of the season so far. But do I really? Because I still believe in Oregon. I might actually pick Oregon over Texas if they play tomorrow on a neutral field. But I have to give Texas credit where credit is due. You have to give Texas an A+ so far to start the season. Colorado State is one of the harder gimme games. If you want to call it a gimme, Colorado State is one of the harder ones that any team scheduled in week one, and Texas handled them like they were nothing. And then they go on the road to the defending national champions and dominate them. This final score is not good enough. This game was over, in my opinion, after the first 20 minutes. After the first 20 minutes, when it was apparent that Michigan's defense could not slow down Texas, you knew in your heart the game was over because Michigan's offense, they are what I thought they were, which is bad. Like Michigan's offense, you can beat FBS schools. You can beat a couple group of five schools. You can beat the lower tier teams in the Big Ten and maybe one or two I don't even know if they could be. I mean, let's be honest here, if Michigan played Florida tomorrow in the swamp, what would the line be? Maybe Michigan 1 or 2 point favorites. Michigan is just not a very good team. They were never in my top 10. They were number 12 for me at the highest. Now they dropped it, but they got embarrassed. So I'm not going to take away. This was still a very big test for Texas. I mentioned all the new pieces, all the new running backs, the new tight end, all the new receivers. They look like an experienced team that's been playing together for a long time. Quinn Ewers has what's it called? Superseded. What I don't know what the word. He has exceeded my expectations, especially in this game. I mean, Michigan's defense. I know they got a lot of big time players on there. Mason Graham, Will Johnson. I didn't notice them. They had this one poor cornerback. There's one poor cornerback. I forget his name. He got absolutely just eviscerated in the first half. Every single big play Texas had, it felt like was on him. But yeah, Texas, they look great this game. They are on a roll. And Texas versus Georgia in Texas is going to be a monster game. Can't wait for that one. Oregon, I had to drop them one spot. Keep in mind, they started off at number three for me. In the AP poll, they have dropped monumentally. But for me, I'm not going to overreact the first 2 weeks, and especially in which they won both their games. Listen, should Oregon have beat Boise State by more than three at home? Yes. Should Oregon have given up less than 500 yards to Ashton Jeanty? Yes, they should have. However, Boise State, let's not pretend Boise State's our scrub, please. Let's not pretend they're scrubs. Okay, Boise State is a very good group of five team. Most people would say they're the best group of five team in the country. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of people would say that. So are we really going to blame Oregon for beating the best group of five team in the country to most people? I don't think so. Some people are calling for Dylan Gabriel to get benched. I just don't get that, guys. They've moved the ball at relative ease. This is the thing. This is the problem. If Oregon beats Boise State 37-10, right, and the defense plays better, nobody's talking shit about Dylan Gabriel. But because they only beat it by 3 points, and the defense didn't play well. It's Dylan Gabriel's fault. That makes no sense to me. I wish they'd run the ball better. They got Juwan James back there. They got Noah Whittington. I would like to see them more committed to the run game. I understand you have some good receivers. By the way, they won a game where Tez Johnson did literally nothing. I think that's worth pointing out. I think if you would have told an Oregon fan that in the before the season, they would have been very shocked by you saying that. But the defense this game was very concerning. The offense overall, I like to see the run game get better. But I do think Oregon, keep in mind, new quarterback. New quarterback. The previous guy was there for 2 years. They lost an offensive lineman. They lost a wide receiver. They lost a running back. There's a lot of change on this offense. I'm going to give them time, and I'm not going to overreact to 2 wins, by the way. They're 2-0. Let's calm down. Michigan at 6, or sorry, not Michigan. Missouri at 6. I think they won their first game like 52-0. They won this game 38-0. It's a nobody. They look good. They run the ball well. DOE's 13 for 149. Defense was great. Let's wait till they play. Who is it? Alabama? That'll be a great game. Especially if Alabama beats Tennessee. That'll be amazing. That'll be a top 6-7 matchup in the SEC. I think they play Alabama before they play Oklahoma. Those are the 2 biggest games. But yeah, Missouri versus Alabama. That's what I'm looking forward to. All right. Number 7. I got Miami still. I didn't want to move them up, but they look great. Florida A&M. Cam Ward came to play. They ran the ball incredibly well. Xavier Restrepo. Off the top of my head, can I name a receiver in the ACC better than Xavier Restrepo? Let me think for a second. I don't think I can. Defensively, they balled the fuck out. I mean, Miami, yeah. Miami, listen, I predicted them to go 13-0. I predicted them to win the ACC and make the college football playoff as a top 3 team. Little too early to call still, but with how weak the rest of the ACC is looking, that prediction is becoming more and more likely, in my opinion. Next up, we got Tennessee. And to be honest, guys, this top seven is really this is it for me. I mean, this is the teams that I really think could win a national championship. Because after this, I'll be honest, between Tennessee and Alabama, right? Because they play each other. Okay, so the winner of that game, I'd say, okay, yeah, they're probably up there as well. But it's really 8 deep. It's 8, and then it's anybody, to be honest with you. I have no clue what could happen outside these top 8. I don't know what's going to happen with like the 2 final playoff spots. No, because you get 1 guaranteed bid. I got 8 plus 1. I got 3 playoff spots where I have no fucking clue who is going to be playing in those games. Let's start off with Tennessee here. They had a very, very impressive win in a neutral site against NC State. Listen, I predicted NC State to win this game. However, I thought it was at NC State. I would not have I predicted the upset because I thought they'd be at home. They were not at home. There were more Tennessee fans there. If I would have known this information, I would not have picked NC State, but it was still a bad pick regardless. NC State looked choppy in week 1, and Tennessee dominated. I should have picked Tennessee to win this game, and they proved me wrong, and they embarrassed NC State. It was close for like the first 15 minutes, but then they got a pick 6, and that just blew the game wide open. I thought Nico looked well. The 2 picks weren't great, but I mean, he ran this offense very, very well. The run game was on point. Dylan Sampson looks like a dog. I hope that they're able to keep him going into next year as well. He could be an absolute monster at Tennessee. And defensively, we know how good Tennessee is defensively. I mentioned this, and I'll say it probably every time I talk about Tennessee. In 2022, they were an amazing pass game, but they did not have the run game to go alongside it, and they certainly did not have the defense to go along with that. In last year, they had an amazing run game and a good defense, but they didn't have the quarterback. Now it appears that they got the quarterback, they got the run game, and they got the defense. So I'm not saying that this is Tennessee's year, but this might be the best team that Josh Heupel has had under his that he's had his hands on, I should say. So they're my number 8 team. They jumped a very large amount after beating NC State. Alabama, for all the people saying that South Florida, Lightning wouldn't strike twice, it's in Alabama now. It's going to be different. South Florida still gave Alabama trouble. Do not let the final score fool you. I think this was a tie game in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Alabama, 4 turnovers, 13 penalties, extremely sloppy, but Jalen Milroe got it done. The run game shined through, and yeah. I just have to continue to reiterate, without Jalen Milroe, this is not a great team. This is not a top 10, top 12 team without Jalen Milroe. I have to keep saying that every single time. Defensively, they held South Florida to 16 points, even with all the turnovers, 4 sacks. It's still probably a solid defense. But yeah, just so sloppy from Alabama. And I believe the game versus Tennessee is in Tennessee. I've already predicted Tennessee to win that game, and I'm sticking with that after week 2. Number 2, we have Utah. Listen. This is where everything in here is interchangeable. I do not love any of these teams from number 9 all the way to the end. Okay. Utah, this is the thing about Utah. I said if Cam Rising was healthy and he looked good, I would switch my stance on Utah and I would put them up here where they belong because I had them very low to start the season. Cam Rising has been healthy. He's not looked great in this game, but listen, it's compared to last year, he looks like fucking Peyton Manning out there. Okay. They ran the ball pretty well. Micah Bernard was the guy this game, over 120 yards. Defensively, they shut down Baylor. They shut down DeQuan Finn. Um, it was a good win. It was a good win. And just because of all the bullshit that happened with everybody else, they just happened to jump 4 spots from a really not that great of a win on paper. But I mean, it's a Big 12 victory in conference win. They're 2-0. They're all the way up to number 10 for me because who the fuck knows? Penn State went life and death at home against Bowling Green. Bowling fucking Green, man. Who would have thought? Listen, this was the Bowling Green team that gave Michigan troubles last year in Ann Arbor, I believe. However, that is not an excuse. Penn State, you have to beat Bowling Green by way more than 7 at home. And Drew Aller, he is what it is. Low 200 something yards, a couple of touchdowns, threw a pick. He's never going to really impress you all that much, but you got to play way better. But they ran the ball incredibly well. 3 players over 100 yards defensively. How the hell does this defense? Listen, I am a believer. They lost a couple really good players from this defense last year. They lost their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz. I do not think this is the same defense that we saw from Penn State last year. I still think they're a good defense, but giving up 27 to Bowling Green at home, that's very concerning. No sacks either. I would keep a close eye on this Penn State defense, and I had to drop them. I just had to drop them after this performance. So they moved down 1 spot for me. Arizona, this is not even a great win. I'm not going to brag about this win for Arizona. They had to jump up 3 spots because of all the other bullshit that happened. But yeah, Noah Fafita, 173 yards. I think McMillan had 1 catch. I don't know how, unless McMillan was hurt. There is absolutely, I don't care if he was triple covered all game. You get him more than 1 touch of the football. But yeah, Quayle Conley, thankfully, they have a good run. They have a great running back duo. Quayle Conley, the transfer from San Jose State, came through 150 yards this game. They ran the ball very well. And the defense, after doing nothing against New Mexico, or New Mexico, I think it was New Mexico, after doing nothing against New Mexico, they showed up against, thankfully, Northern Arizona. A very disappointing game from the Arizona offense, especially the pass game. But defensively, they showed up and the run game was good. So they jumped up 3 spots for a narrow win over fucking Northern Arizona. Next up, we have Michigan. And you may be surprised by them only dropping 1 spot from losing at home in embarrassing fashion. But here's the thing. So the AP poll had Michigan like what, number 8, number 7, something like that. So you would expect them to drop 4 in the AP poll. But Michigan, they are what I thought they were. I'm not shocked. So if I'm not surprised by the result of a game, then I'm not going to drop a team all that far. Michigan lost in expected fashion. Their offense sucks. It's terrible. They don't have a quarterback. Donovan Edwards is possibly the most overrated player in college football. There are 30 plus running backs in this country right now who are better than Donovan Edwards, but he was on the cover of EA College Football for some reason. The defense, the supposed to be the shining star of this team, the saving grace, the only possible way that this team could make the college football playoff is the defense, and they did nothing. They had nothing for Texas. And if it wasn't for Texas's own penalties, they would have hung 40 plus on Michigan at home. So this was an embarrassing game for Michigan all around. There's really not even a bright spot to talk about. And this is going to happen against Oregon. This is going to happen against Ohio State. And we don't even think of Texas. Maybe some people do now because they're in the SEC. We don't even think of Texas as this dominating team on both lines of scrimmage. I think of them as a finesse team on offense, really. And defensively, they weren't a great defense last year. So for Michigan not to be able to run the ball, you couldn't run the ball against Texas. You're fucked against Ohio State. I don't think you're going to do well against Oregon. So I already had those 3 losses penciled in for Michigan, and they are what I thought they were. So I didn't drop them all that far. So, and I have so little confidence in all these teams below them as well. So they're all grouped up in the same mid pile for me. Next up, you have Oklahoma. Life, all these teams, life and death against Houston. By the way, a Houston team that lost to UNLV in week 1, I think. So yeah, Jackson Arnold, I am not sold. I am not sold at all on Jackson Arnold. I still think this Oklahoma team is going 6-6. And this kind of just confirms that to me. They could not run the ball. Their running back room is not impressive to me. Deion Burks had 9 catches for 53 yards, not a lot. Defensively, I mean, I guess he played well. The defense has looked good so far this season, but man, Jackson Arnold, this offense has to get going, and you cannot be going back and forth against Houston at home. You just can't do it. If they play LSU, they play Tennessee, they play Ole Miss, they either play Georgia, they obviously play Texas, then they either play Georgia or Alabama. They have too many tough games to be going life and death with Houston at home. They just can't do it. Oklahoma, they jump up 3 spots because all the other teams lost. But man, I am not confident in this Oklahoma team whatsoever. Next up, Oklahoma State. I could say the same thing. Arkansas choked this game. Arkansas should have beat Oklahoma State brutally. Oklahoma State at home, by the way, lose or not losing, but barely squeaking out an overtime win against one of the worst SEC teams. By the way, they didn't look so bad against Oklahoma State. I think the quarterback had about 450 yards by himself, a guy I've never even heard of. Arkansas quarterback. He moved the ball at will against Oklahoma State. Their defense was pitiful this game, and the offense was pitiful. Alan Bowman, do not let the stats fool you. This guy had like 25 incompletions. Ollie Gordon, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against Arkansas. Really a terrible performance, to be honest. If I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'm shitting myself because I think they got to play Kansas. They got to play Utah next week. I think. Yeah, it's not looking good for Oklahoma State. But like I said, just because they won, they had to jump up a couple spots. But man, I expect Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to lose multiple games this year. So this may be as high as both of them get ranked all year. Next up, we have Washington. Uh, Nothing much to say about Washington. They've had 2 gimme games. They've looked good in both those games. Will Rogers has done his job and then some. The run game has been extremely impressive to me. Back-to-back weeks where Jonah Coleman is a guy I put up here, 15 touches last week for 133 yards. They got multiple guys. They're too deep at running back, and I really like this receiving core. You got Giles Jackson, you got Denzel Boston, you got the transfer. I think it's Jeremiah Hunter, the transfer from Cal. I like this. I like this offense, honestly, for Washington. And defensively, they've looked really good so far. 7 sacks, 1 takeaway. I'm not going to overreact to games against subpar competition, but at the end of the day, they're 2-0 and they've looked really good. And most other teams cannot say the same. So I have to put them all the way up here at 16. Next up, we got Memphis, the best G5 team in the country, in my opinion. They beat Troy handedly, another one of the better Power 5 or FBS teams, I should say. And listen, I was wondering where Mario Anderson was last week. They did not run the ball very well at all, and I was wondering where Mario Anderson was. He showed up this week, 21 touches, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. The impressive thing to me is that they don't. The thing I like about Memphis, their biggest strength is their quarterback Seth Hennigan and their wide receiver duo. But they didn't even have to rely on that to win this game comfortably. That's what I like a lot. Defensively, they've looked good so far. I don't have any complaints for this Memphis team. And I think when that level of competition jumps up, they're going to play better as well. So I'm very confident in my pick for Memphis going to the college football playoff. Next up, we got Louisville, 18. I got no complaints, man. Louisville's looked amazing so far. The competition not so good, but they've ran the ball at will against anybody. Tyler Show, the quarterback, transfer from Texas Tech. He has been flawless pretty much so far, still without their number 1 receiver, Colin Lacey. He'll be out for a while. So I'll be saying still without Colin Lacey for a long time. But it doesn't look like they've lost a beat, man. Defensively, they've been fine. No complaints for Louisville. And by the way, that big matchup I was talking about between Louisville and Georgia Tech early on does not look like so big of a matchup anymore. It looks like Louisville's going to be able to take that one. So that's still a trap game. I would still watch out for that game. But Louisville could potentially, with all the other bullshit going on in the ACC, Louisville's looking like that team that could potentially be playing Miami in December. Next up, Notre Dame, one of the first teams we're going to talk about here, just completely shit the bed. Notre Dame is a joke. Listen, I'm not a hater on Notre Dame, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Notre Dame fooled me again. Listen, 2 years ago, what was it? They had the loss to Marshall. They went life and death with Stanford, I think. It was an embarrassing year 2 years ago for Notre Dame. Last year, they pulled it together, but they lost to Ohio State at home. And they went on the road, I think, and lost. They lose to Clemson. It was like a disappointing year last year, a horrendous year in 2022. And they start this year off. The thing last year, right? It was Sam Hartman, the transfer. He's going to turn things around at Notre Dame. They got these preseason, right? Because preseason at Notre Dame, you have all these weapons, right? And you have the quarterback. But when it comes time to, play the game, They suck and they're terrible. And I don't know who to blame anymore because they got the offensive coordinator from LSU and Jaden and amazing year for Jaden Daniels last year. But Riley Leonard, I guess he's just overrated. Listen, man, if you're an ACC quarterback, stay away from Notre Dame. They will ruin your college football career because Riley Leonard, a baller at Duke, a guy with a bunch of heart, never really the biggest arm though. That's the thing that concerned me. And if you're getting a mobile quarterback, a run first quarterback, I should say, why are you not leaning into the run game? Why are you not trying to be a team who runs for 250, 300 plus yards a game, especially against FBS teams? Like, man, there is just no way that they should have had to throw the ball this much against Northern Illinois. I can't blame the defense. The defense didn't get a single sack or takeaway, but as a ranked team, you cannot lose to a team that you give up 16 points to. Riley Leonard looks awful. He looks terrible. The receiving core, even though they got Chris Mitchell and they got Mitchell Evans and they got Jaden Thomas and Greathouse and all these guys, they look terrible. They can't throw the football. It's a joke. I have to drop them 10 spots and their season's over. Notre Dame had to go because they don't play a conference championship. Notre Dame had to go 12-0 to make the college football playoff. They're not going to make it. They don't even have a big team that they play on their schedule. Florida State sucks now. They're not going to get credited for a big win there. I mean, Louisville, I guess they play Louisville and USC. If they run the table, they'll have like 2 ranked wins, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough. You lost at home to Northern Illinois. And by the way, I'm not going to rank Northern Illinois because they beat Notre Dame, because now I know that Notre Dame sucks. I got flashes of it in week one, them going life and death, sorry, with Texas A&M. I got flashes of their offense being a joke. Now it's confirmed to me. Notre Dame cannot throw the ball. Their offense is disgusting. And Marcus Freeman, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about Marcus Freeman. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. Riley Leonard's not the guy. They got to change something massively at Notre Dame. Next up, we got USC. They jumped 2 spots for me because they handled business against Utah State. Didn't have to throw the ball that much. They ran the ball very, very well. Woody Marks, the transfer, Jaquavius Marks is his real name, I think, from Mississippi State. 16 touches, 142 yards. They look good. The defense, by the way, has looked very good so far because keep in mind, guys, last year against teams like San Jose State and Stanford, they weren't giving up 0 points. This 0 point thing for USC, this is new. Okay, so this is something to keep an eye on. So 48-0, that's a pretty rare scorecard for USC. So they jump up 2 spots for me. 21 LSU. Listen, the final score, they struggled. LSU struggled this game defensively, but Garrett Nussmeier, he threw 6 touchdowns. Kyron Lacey, he's up to 4 touchdowns in the year already. He might be the next big guy at LSU. But listen, man, this was a close game. This was a close game until the very end. I still have big concerns for this LSU defense. I have big concerns for this run game. It looked like in week one that John Emery was their best back. He went down. So now I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. So I have some big time concerns for this LSU team, and they jump up 2 spots for me, but I'm not confident in them whatsoever. Then we got UCF. We got UCF because they beat up, they handled business, whatever. KJ Jefferson has not looked great so far, but we might be talking about the best run game in the country when we talk about UCF. 384 yards this game, right? 6 touchdowns. I think they had like 450 in week one. I think UCF might be over 800 rushing yards on the season already. RJ Harvey, one of the many, many players that's better than by a mile than Donovan Edwards. He had 19 carries, 126 yards, 4 touchdowns. Defensively, they shut down Sam Houston. I'm not going to hype them up too much for these lackluster wins, but they blew out Oklahoma State last year, and now they have a quarterback. I mean, listen, man, UCF is the sleeper team in the Big 12 now since Kansas lost. And look, man, I'm very high. I am very, very high on UCF. Can't wait till they play some of their big games. Next, we got Nebraska. They handled Colorado. And for some of the people that say this is not an impressive win, Colorado's defense didn't play bad. It was their offense that didn't show up, and mainly their offensive line. Colorado's defense kind of slowed down Nebraska. They didn't have, I mean, look at the numbers. What is this? It's like, 340 yards of offense with multiple takeaways. Well, one of those was a pick six, but it's like Nebraska was not moving the ball at will against Colorado. This game was terribly officiated, but listen, they handled business at home against Colorado. Dylan Raiola, he played good enough. That's the thing, man. Nebraska, they don't need a great quarterback. When you go from one of the worst quarterbacks in the country, you just need a guy who's going to protect the football and make a good play every now and then. That's what Dylan Raiola is doing for them right now. They're running the ball very, very well. And defensively, man, I mean, that front seven looked serious. And when I say serious, I mean like some of the best in the country serious. 6 sacks, 2 takeaways. They beat up Shadur Sanders. They knocked him out the game. They got a pick six. Yeah, that defense looked legit, and they're up to number 23 for me now. I'm very impressed so far by what I've seen with Nebraska. And then we got Kansas. This one hurts, man. This one hurts maybe more than any other game so far this season. I was high on Kansas, man. I was so high on Kansas. I thought they were a great team. And listen, this is the thing about Kansas, right? The run game showed up. The defense showed up. It was Jalen Daniels. I called Jalen Daniels a top 10 quarterback in the country, and he let them down, man. He had a run game. Devin Neal came to play. The defense held Illinois to not that many points, especially considering all the turnovers. Jalen Daniels threw 3 picks, man. That's it. That's the game. That's all I can say, man. Jalen Daniels lost this game for Kansas, something I was not expecting. And the sad thing is, they win this game with Jason Bean. They win this game without a shadow of a doubt. They beat Illinois with Jason Bean. That's no disrespect to Jason Bean. I hope he balls out in the UFL. I'm actually very excited to see him play in the UFL. But man, I thought Jalen Daniel was the key to taking this team to the next level, but he was actually holding them back this game. I never thought I'd be saying that, and it's really sad to say. But listen, there's a lot of season left ahead. This is not a conference loss, okay? But yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look to be losing to Illinois. Not a bad team though. Illinois 2-0. You know, if this game was in Kansas, I think the result's different. It was in Illinois, but yeah, man, not a good loss for Kansas. Then we got NC State. Talk about another bad loss. Yeah, they just didn't look on the same caliber. I thought this was a team that was obviously worse talent wise than Tennessee, but I thought at home they were not at home, but I thought they were at home that they could take it up to another level. They did not. They could not run the ball at all. Grayson, listen, they put together a good first drive. They put together like a good second or third drive, I think. But when they threw the pick six, it was over. The game was literally over at that point. The only player on the team that had more than 30 yards was Kevin Conception. That was it. The defense could not hold. They were never going to hold against Tennessee. They got 2 takeaways though. Shout out to them. But yeah, I think I got a reality check a little bit on NC State. I predicted them to go like 11-1 in the regular season. That is probably not going to happen. So yeah, NC State lost, and yeah, I look a little stupid right now. Kansas State at 26. This is the thing about Kansas. This is the reason I'm not bumping Kansas State up. I am very low. I am very, very low on Kansas State compared to most other people. And don't get me wrong, beating Tulane on the road is impressive. I'm not going to discredit that. However, needing the help of the refs and also getting picked apart by like a freshman Tulane quarterback, that is not impressive to me. They ran the ball very well. Avery Johnson, I still don't get the hype around this guy. He's okay. He's solid. He's not good. He's not very good. He's not great. He's solid. DJ Giddens is the best player on this team by a mile. One of the many, many players better than Donovan Edwards. Defensively, the second half was good, but they got picked, guys. They got picked apart. This secondary looked bad in the first half. This second, like the linebackers looked bad in the first half. I don't know how many yards Tulane had. If I had to guess, I'd say it was over 400. They moved the ball at will, but Kansas State, I think they are the better team than Tulane. But this is the thing. I thought Tulane was like the 31st, 32nd best team in the country. And Kansas State, they are what I thought they were. They beat the 30-some best team in the country narrowly on the road. I think Tulane beat Kansas State last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it is what it is. Kansas State, my opinion of them did not really change, and it will not change until they beat a team better than them, in my opinion. So they have a chance. They play Arizona the day I'm recording this video. I've not seen that game yet, but if they beat Arizona, I'll give Kansas State a little more credit. But as it stands, they're going to remain at 26 for me. Next up, we got Duke. Listen, man, I don't know if this game was on the road. It might have been. Going on the road and beating a Big Ten team, that's pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive. And Northwestern, not even one of the worst. I would not say Northwestern's a bottom 3 or 4 Big Ten team. So going on the road and winning that game, I give Duke a lot of credit for that. Malik Murphy, he's looked good so far. He's had like, what, 6, 7 touchdowns so far this year, like 500 yards. The problem is that they have not been able to run the ball very well yet. That is the concern. If this team is going to be built off their defense, I'd like to see them have a much better run game. But listen, Jordan Moore so far, multiple games with over 100 yards so far. He's 2 for 2 in terms of 100-yard games so far. Keep an eye on Jordan Moore as one of those guys in the ACC, one of those top receivers. And defensively, listen, Manny Diaz is the new coach. Duke was a good team last year defensively. It looks like more of the same. I like this team. I like the way they're built. I think they got a good quarterback and a great defense. So I like what I see out of Duke so far. I ranked them number 30 last week, and that looked to be right so far. 2-0 from Duke to start the year. After they got Syracuse. Syracuse, they beat Georgia Tech. They're going to take Georgia Tech's spot. By the way, Kyle McCord. I talked a little shit on Kyle McCord. Everybody talked shit on Kyle McCord last year. He is balling out. Name me another QB in the country that has 700 plus yards and 8 touchdowns to start the year. I don't know if that guy exists, but Kyle McCord has it. The run game has been good. I think the name is LaQuint Allen of the running back. He's been off to a really good start. They have multiple receivers, by the way, with over 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. This offense has been electric to start the year. And defensively, they got 4 sacks, 1 takeaway. The Georgia Tech quarterback had a really good game. But listen, Syracuse came to play and they beat Georgia Tech convincingly. I mean, they actually choked the lead at the end. They were up big in like the third or fourth quarter, I think. But Syracuse was the better team and they won this game, in my opinion. So Syracuse jumps up to number 28 for me. And they could start off like 4-0, by the way. Then we got Clemson. It is what it is. A couple teams lost. That's why they're back in the rankings. This is the thing. Cade Klubnik had possibly the best statistical half of football I've ever seen by a quarterback. He had 383 yards and 7 touchdowns. This is not an FCS team. This is not one of the worst FBS teams. App State played for their conference championship game last year. Listen, you can think App State's bad. That's okay. They played for their conference championship game. They might have won. I'm not even sure. And Cade Klubnik put up 300 plus yards and 7 touchdowns in the first half on them. That's incredible. This was the best Clemson offense I've ever seen, ever. And yeah, they deserve to be back in the rankings after a performance like that. And then Rutgers, number 30 for me. They beat Akron. Their quarterback, he was the former Minnesota quarterback. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, but he's been solid so far. But the star of this team is the run game. It's the best part of Rutgers. They run it incredibly well. And that's on the back of Kyle Monaghay. Yeah, 50 touchdowns, 376 yards, 4 touchdowns. One of the best running backs in the Big Ten. Yet another guy who was better by a mile than Donovan Edwards. And defensively, they were really good this week, really good last week. So keep an eye on Rutgers, man. I might have been sleeping on Rutgers a little bit. They had a good year last year. They had a good year, and it looks like they're going to be a good team again this year. So keep an eye on Rutgers. Now we got the teams that dropped out. I think only 3 teams. Yep. Colorado, obviously. It may have been a little premature of me to put Colorado up there. Yeah, they couldn't. The offensive line, it just looks like the problem. I will say this: the defense looked better. They played Nebraska last year. They forced a couple of turnovers, but I thought the defense looked really good. We all agree that Nebraska offensively is better than what they were last year, and Colorado still did not give up many big plays against Nebraska. I thought their defense looked good. I thought Travis Hunter played well, but Shadur did not play well enough, and obviously the offensive line was terrible. The offensive line is just a joke at Colorado still, it looks like. So, yeah, they drop out of my rankings. Georgia Tech, close loss. Haynes King played well. This is combined with the FSU loss, the FSU win, I should say, not aging too well. They seem to be what they were last year. I thought they'd beat FSU, lose to Syracuse. It was the other way. Or sorry, I thought they would lose to FSU, beat Syracuse. It's the other way around. They start off 2-1 either way. And then Liberty, maybe this. I might have been overblowing this loss or this win, I should say, for Liberty. They won the game. New Mexico State, they played New Mexico State in the conference championship game last year. So maybe I'm underrating New Mexico State a little bit, but I just feel like if I'm putting this faith in Liberty as my pick, or not my pick, but like the favorite, I should say, the favorite group of 5 team to make the college football playoff, you have to beat New Mexico State. You return your quarterback, you return your head coach, you return your number 1 running back. You have to beat New Mexico State by more than 6 points. That's just how I feel. Quentin Cooley is a really good running back. Caden Salter's a good quarterback. They played well. The defense got 4 sacks. Not really many complaints. They'll probably be back in my rankings next week. But, man, I just got to see more. I got to see more out of Liberty if you want me to call you the best G5 team. So that's the reason they dropped out of my rankings. They probably shouldn't have, to be honest. But, yeah, they were 24. Now they're 30 for me. I probably should not have. So, you know what? We'll do it like this. They're actually at 30 for me. They're actually at – I'm a retcon this. They're at 30. Rutgers 31. We'll do it like that. So, thank you for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.